I wired $15,000 to a man I'd never once seen on a real video call. Hi, I'm Emily, I'm 31, and what happened to me on a dating app didn't just empty my savings account, it shattered my confidence, pulled my closest friend into the exact same nightmare, and changed the way I trust people for good. This happened in Brooklyn, New York, 8 months ago, and I still get chills telling it. I'm an ER nurse at a hospital in downtown Brooklyn, 12-hour shifts, exhausted, single for 3 years after a bad breakup. My co-worker and closest friend, Jessica Reyes, worked the same ER floor as me and kept nagging me to try Hinge. "Emily, you can't just work and sleep forever," she said one night in the break room, practically shoving her phone in my face. So I made a profile. Nothing serious, I told myself, just to see. 2 days later, I matched with a man named Daniel Foster, 34, listed as an orthopedic surgeon currently stationed with a military medical unit in Landstuhl, Germany. His photos showed a broad-shouldered man in fatigues standing beside a helicopter, another in scrubs holding an X-ray up to the light, another laughing on a beach in what looked like Cyprus. His bio read simply, "Serving overseas, looking for someone real to come home to." Something about him felt different from the usual guys on the app. He didn't send one-word messages. He asked real questions about my shifts, about why I became a nurse, about my mom who'd passed 2 years earlier. Within a week, we were texting for hours every night, late for me, 6 hours ahead for him. He'd send me voice memos, low and warm, telling me about his day treating soldiers, about missing home-cooked food, about how tired he was of being alone overseas. I asked, naturally, for a video call. "Soon, I promise," he said. "The base has restricted bandwidth for personal calls, and honestly, the connection's terrible. Let me send you more photos instead." And he did dozens of them, always convincing, always just enough. Looking back now, I can see the small inconsistency I brushed past that first week. The name on his dog tags didn't quite match the middle name he'd given me in a voice memo 2 days earlier. I noticed it, I let it go. Have any of you ever caught a tiny detail like that and just talked yourself out of it because you didn't want to be right? My younger sister Megan came over for dinner around that time, and I couldn't stop talking about him. She listened, chewing slowly, then said, Has this man's face ever actually moved in front of you? Like, live?" I laughed it off. "He's deployed, Megan. It's not that simple." She didn't push. But I remember her look, the same one our mother used to give me before she passed, the one that meant she saw something I didn't want said out loud. 3 weeks in, Daniel told me he loved me. It felt fast, but he explained it beautifully. "When you're far from everything familiar, Emily, you learn fast what actually matters. You're what matters." I was floating. I told Jessica everything, and she'd raise an eyebrow sometimes and say, "I just wish you could actually see his face move, you know, talk to him live." One night, I pushed harder for a video call. He agreed, finally, and my heart pounded as I waited by my laptop at the scheduled time. The call connected for exactly 4 seconds, a pixelated, frozen image lit by what looked like a laptop screen glow before it dropped. "Signal's garbage out here," he texted right after. "I'm so sorry, baby. I wanted this to be perfect." I told myself it was proof, not a warning. Then came the first request. And here's the part that fooled me the most. He didn't actually ask. He mentioned, almost in passing, that his unit was being relocated and there was an $800 fee for expedited paperwork on his personal effects. When I offered to help, he said no, absolutely not. He'd figure it out himself. He didn't want me involved in his money problems. I insisted twice before he finally, reluctantly, agreed to let me send it. Looking back, that refusal is exactly what made me trust him completely. A month later came a second request, this time for $2,200, supposedly a customs fee, to ship medical equipment and personal belongings back to the States, ahead of a leave he'd finally been approved for. He was coming home to see me, he said. Actually coming home. I cried from happiness reading that message. I sent it immediately, telling myself it was an investment in our future. Here's where things escalate, and you are not going to believe how deep this goes. 2 weeks before his supposed leave, Daniel called, not video, just voice, always just voice, sounding frantic. He'd been detained at a transit hub over a discrepancy in his travel authorization, and unless he paid what he called a $12,000 release bond within 48 hours, He'd lose his position entirely and possibly face a court-martial. He was sobbing. I had never heard him sound like that before. He said his travel hold meant he couldn't access his US accounts until he landed, but he promised he'd repay me the moment he was home. I emptied nearly my entire savings account money I'd been putting away since nursing school and sent it through a wire service he directed me to use. The next day at work, I mentioned it to Jessica, expecting comfort. Instead, her face went white. "Emily," she said quietly, "I need to show you something." She pulled up her own phone. On her screen was a dating profile, a man calling himself Michael Foster, 36, an Army combat medic stationed in Kuwait. Same jawline. Same eyes. Same exact photo of him laughing on that beach in Cyprus, just cropped slightly differently. Jessica had matched with him 4 months earlier and had already sent nearly $6,000 before growing suspicious and quietly cutting contact, too ashamed to tell anyone. Afema. We sat in that break room staring at 2 phones side by side, the same stolen face smiling back at us from 2 different lies. I felt the floor drop out from under me. Everything I told myself about being the exception collapsed in about 4 seconds. I kept thinking about that frozen, pixelated 4-second video call and realizing it hadn't been proof of anything. It had been a screen recording, looped just long enough to feel real. We didn't confront him right away. Instead, Jessica, furious on my behalf, spent that whole weekend digging. She ran the beach photo through a reverse image search and found the real man behind it. An actual former Army medic named Corporal James Hutton, who had posted publicly 2 years earlier that his photos were being used by scammers. Jessica messaged him, and he replied the next morning, exhausted, saying he'd reported the theft to 2 dating apps already and new fake profiles kept appearing anyway. Then, Jessica found something that made my stomach turn. Buried in a public scam awareness forum, another victim had posted a payment receipt. The account name on the wire service matched an account Daniel had once accidentally sent me a screenshot from under the name Rachel Voss. Public records connected the name Rachel Voss to an apartment less than 40 minutes away, in Queens. Whether Rachel was the voice I'd heard every night for 2 months, or just one piece of a larger operation, we honestly didn't know. The money trail led to her name. It didn't prove she was the only one behind it. I didn't sleep that night. I felt stupid, humiliated, and somehow still heartbroken, which made me feel even more stupid. Jessica sat with me until 3 in the morning, not saying much, just being there. At one point I asked her, how did I not see it? And she said, the only thing that actually helped. Because he was built, piece by piece, specifically, so you wouldn't. I called Megan that same night, and instead of saying, I told you so, she drove over at 1 in the morning with takeout and sat on my kitchen floor with me until sunrise. I kept apologizing for not listening, and she kept telling me to stop. Con artists don't succeed because their targets are foolish. They succeed because they're patient, and patience feels exactly like love until it doesn't. We reported everything to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center and filed with local police. An officer told us gently that scammers often look for people who seem financially stable, overworked, and emotionally isolated. He also warned us not to contact Rachel Voss directly, since operations like this one often involve more than one person, and reaching out ourselves could tip them off before any arrest could happen. Months later, Jessica heard through the same forum that the account tied to Rachel's name had gone silent, though whether that meant an arrest or just a new alias, we still don't know. I got about $1,100 back through a fraud dispute on part of one transfer. The rest, nearly $20,000 between Jessica and me combined, was gone for good. I moved in with my sister for 4 months to rebuild my savings. Jessica and I are closer than ever now, bonded by something neither of us wanted in common. Sometimes at work, a patient will mention their spouse serving overseas, and my whole body goes cold for a second before I remember it's not him, it was never him. Because him never existed at all. I deleted every dating app for a while. When I reinstalled 1 month later, the first thing I did after matching with someone was ask for a live video call. Some of them disappeared the moment I asked. I've started thinking of that as a filter, not a rejection. So I'll ask you what I've asked myself every day since. If someone built the perfect version of everything you were missing, piece by piece, using someone else's stolen face and your own loneliness against you, would you have caught it faster than I did? Or is that exactly the point, that none of us think we're the type this happens to, until we are? Tell me in the comments. And if you're talking to someone online who's always just about to video call, always just needs one more transfer, please show someone else what you're seeing. It might be the only thing that saves them.